Hi and welcome to another waveform tutorial. So this is a quick one just on some basic music theory but in practice. So we're going to look at the C major scale first, very quickly. So here are the notes of the C major scale. Now we're going to build the chords of that scale, which is incredibly easy. So each chord is a triad, meaning 3 notes. So we take the first and then 1, 2, 3, the third, so C and E, and then the fifth. So that's C major chord, C, E, G. Same formula, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we have D minor scale, chord, should I say. And we can continue on going up and up. So this is what results in here. So all the chords of C major scale. Okay, so here we have already in their own clips, we have all the chords of the C major scale: C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, and B diminished. So diminished chords, you're almost never going to use them, very rarely, unless you're playing jazz, electronic music, pretty much never. So our primary chords, so C, F, and G, 1, 4, and 5. So the most common progression. So their primary chords, your 3-chord trick. And our 3 chords in orange or yellow, D minor, E minor, and A minor, are secondary chords. So how do we increase our palette of chords? So here's what are called songwriting chords in the key of C major. So you can see we still have the same, our green are primary chords in the dark green. We have now these grey chords, which we'll call borrowed. So they're borrowed from other scales. They have notes which are not in the C major scale. So they've come in a couple of forms. So they've got reverse polarity, so a major chord turned to a minor chord, or a minor chord turned to a major chord, or flattened chords. So instead of E minor, we have E flat major. And this gives us quite a few more possibilities. So the minor fourth, which has got a nice kind of sad feel to it. It's used in a lot of James Bond themes, Radiohead, used extensively. Then obviously we have the 5th chord and the 7th of it. You can always reverse the polarity of the 5th as well. But again, you're going to strain the sense of key. If you use too many of these chords, you're going to completely lose the feel of the key. Just to use some of them, create some tension and release. So you can see we've got A flat, which is a flattened 6th, B flat, which is a flattened 7th, and B diminished, our 7th leading chord, which basically we're never going to use. So the flattened 6th and flattened 7th are used in quite often used in the 60s and in a lot of blues progressions. Also flattened 3rd. So you can also note that the Roman numerals are used for the number of each chord. So capitals for major and small case for minor or diminished. Okay, so let's look at how we could actually use these in a practical application. So it's easy just to save those into your browser, so then anytime you want to start a new song, rather than doing the donkey work of inputting chords over and over again, which is a waste of time and is holding you back in creativity, you want to be doing things quickly and without thinking. So when you've got the stuff pre-prepped, you can just drop in your chords as is and create an idea really quickly. So let's do a 2-5-1 progression. So D minor, G, C. Might just double the size of the one chord, the C. So we get a 4-bar loop. So I'm sure that's very familiar. Not very exciting, but it's a start. So we can duplicate that and maybe make one change to give a bit of variety. So have the size of our C chord and maybe add a 6th, A minor, and see what that's like. So you can see this is a much quicker way of getting a basic chord progression going rather than inputting all the notes. By the time you've done that, basically you're doing the same thing over and over again. It's kind of wasted work. It slows you down and it saps your inspiration. You want to have everything pre-prepped and ready to go, so when inspiration strikes, you can work with it straight away. It makes making music much more fun and more intuitive. Okay, so let's look at a bit more, not complex, but a bit more ambiguous as regards the key. So it's moving away from strictly being in C. So we go flattened 7th, B flat, D major, so in reverse polarity, G7, so dominant chord, and a D minor 2nd. And we can work with that. So what else should we add? So an A minor and an F minor, so that's the reverse polarity 4th, so minor 4th. So let's have a listen. So it goes around the houses, but it comes back to the C nicely. So again, a really quick way of putting an idea together. So you could also, if you wanted, so we can change our trigger quantization and we can trigger chords, like play them in. So if you want to do it that way, you just create a MIDI track, get the input output and make sure it's taking MIDI from the correct track. So we just have to make sure we have that armed to record. So make sure it's armed and then make sure you hit the clip slot on that track before you start playing in your notes. So I'm just doing this totally randomly. So again, it's a very quick way of putting an idea together. You can just throw random stuff together and then edit it after the fact. And speaking of randomly, you could use the follow action. So select all the tracks and you'll have a group follow action and you can set it to any and then they'll automatically trigger randomly. Results are pretty patchy, but you can trawl through some stuff and see if you come up with any gems. So also, if you want to change your key one very simple option is just to use inbuilt MIDI effects. So go to pitch, and then you can set it to pitch up, pitch down by any amount you want. Okay, so I've done exactly the same thing for A minor scale, so we'll run through it. So the same notes, basically in a different order. And we can build triads exactly the same way. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Create a triad. And you continue the formula all the way up. So first, third, and fifth. So we get A minor first, B diminished, and C. So here they are all. Again, the B diminished, we're generally not going to use it, particularly in electronic music. So let's look at the basic chords of A minor. So obviously A minor itself, B diminished, C, D minor, E minor, F, and G. So you can probably guess similarities between our A minor and C major. So look up modes if you don't. So now look at the songwriting chords. We've added, of course, reverse polarity, and we have flattened the B diminished and converted it to a major. So we have a flattened second. Again, so we can see the crossover. So E minor, F, G, G, just their position within the scale has changed. So just like we did with the C major, we can throw a progression together really quickly. So the idea here, apart from gives you an inkling of basic music theory, is you can again get ideas together really, really quickly without having to think about it too much. There's no point in doing this over and over every time you set up a project. So once you just have whatever chords in the browser, you can just load them in and set up a progression really, really quickly. So I hope this was a help, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.